All right, I am B Rose, and welcome to Truth Talk. Today, I'd like to cover a couple different topics, but I want to start off with talking about the strange weather that has been going on in the central United States or kind of Midwest area. If you're anywhere near there, you'll know that there was a huge blizzard that came through on December 21st to the 22nd, and it caused a lot of people problems. I don't think anyone was prepared for what it did. I know that it knocked out a lot of people's power, put down a couple grids, and the temperature dipped dramatically, which no one was ready for. It dipped even faster than normal in that region because the weather does change a lot in the Midwest. But anyways, let's talk about it. So here is a photo of the blizzard that came through. It actually covered more area than this, but this is what they predicted. Here is another photo of it moving towards the northeastern states. The reason I want to talk about this is because of the dramatic change in weather. It's not unusual for it to get colder in the winter, but it is unusual for the weather to go from being 30 degrees, maybe 20 at night, and drop to -6 to -10 degrees, like overnight. And I realized that it was a blizzard. I understand that. But today, in this Midwest area, it is around 50 degrees. So it went from a couple days ago being -6 degrees, I'll say on average, to being 50 degrees. This is not normal. This is not normal weather patterns. This is not normal in any way. This weather came out of nowhere and left very quickly, which leads me to believe this weather was not real, that it was artificially pushed. And I want to talk about this because this happens almost every year now. Alright, I'm gonna take you back to the 1980s. This is a radar from March 1st, 1980, and it shows a blizzard coming. Now, this is what a real blizzard looks like for anyone who's forgotten. And I want you to keep this picture in the back of your mind as we move forward to more recent snowstorm radars. This is a radar from a snowstorm in 1989. This is also a normal blizzard, a normal snowstorm. Now we're going to fast forward to 1993. This is a huge blizzard that affected a lot of people. Now, just by looking at it, tell me the difference between this storm and the one from 1998. Sorry, I meant 1989, not 1998. This is a blizzard from 2018, and it looks similar to the one from 1993, but has no resemblance to the ones from the 80s. This is a blizzard from 2019, and somehow they seem to be getting worse. As you can tell, it's very similar to the one from the year before in 2018. This is a storm from 2021, which looks almost identical to the one from 2019. And if you haven't noticed yet, all of these newer blizzards have a slight hook to them. And the blizzard from this year was given the term a bomb cyclone. But this term was actually created in the 1980s by a professor at McGill University. But yet, it seemed that their storms back then weren't like this. So that's something to think about. So you might be thinking, what is your point? Why should I care? You know, most people think that this is due to climate change and that the world is falling apart and that the ozone layer is gone. and that is why we have such terrible weather, and the weather's getting worse, and there's more earthquakes and volcano eruptions and lakes drying up. And what can I do about it? Why should I care? Well, you should care because this is not climate change. That is not the term I would use for it anyways. This is about weather manipulation. If you don't think that the government or that the elitists of the world have the ability to manipulate the weather, then you need to do better research. Because that is exactly what is happening here. That is why every storm is shaped the same, every hurricane is shaped the same. They are manipulating the weather, which is why we get these bursts of weather. We get these bursts of cold or hot or hurricane or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's gone. All of a sudden the next day it's 60 degrees. And it's like, what happened? Well, the weather went back to what it would actually have been normally, instead of what it was while it was being manipulated. So, how is this done? Well, if you guessed by a government research program, you win a prize. Weather manipulation is done using a machine called HAARP. That's HAARP, which stands for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. And this program supposedly was initiated as an ionosphere research program jointly funded by the United States Air Force and the United States Navy. And there are many, many, many articles on this program that deflect from what they actually do, which is weather manipulation. That's pretty much all they do. And if you want to take a guess at when this program was created, 1993, which is when that horrible storm happened. So let's talk a little bit more about how this machine came to be. The man who is most associated with the creation and development of HAARP is named Dr. Bernard Eastland. And there was a 1987 patent that was issued to Dr. Eastland, and it was titled Method and Apparatus for Altering a Region in the Earth's Atmosphere, Ionosphere, and Magnetosphere. And in this patent, which sets the stage for HAARP, Dr. Eastland makes a number of fascinating statements that clearly contradict the claim that it's only being used for research and not for military purposes or for purposes to control the weather. So there are a couple statements from this 1987 patent that I would like to read, and these are verbatim from the patent. So the first one is, the temperature of the ionosphere has been raised by hundreds of degrees in these experiments. The second statement is, this invention has a phenomenal variety of potential future developments. Large regions of the atmosphere could be lifted to unexpectedly high altitude so that missiles encounter unexpected and unplanned drag forces, which result in destruction or deflection. Weather modification is possible by, for example, altering upper atmosphere wind patterns or altering solar absorption patterns by the constructing of one or more plumes of atmospheric particles, which will act as a lens or focusing device. Ozone, nitrogen, etc. concentrations in the atmosphere could be artificially increased. And the third statement I want to read is, electromagnetic pulse defenses are also possible. The Earth's magnetic field could be decreased or disrupted at appropriate altitudes to modify or eliminate the magnetic field. So all of these statements are pretty interesting and eye-opening. There's actually a couple more I'm going to read when I talk about the effect that this machine has on communication networks. But I'd also like to mention that in this patent, they say several times that Alaska is the ideal location for this machine, and that's exactly where it is now. And the government fully acknowledges that it's built a massive array of antennas in Alaska with the capability of disturbing the ionosphere exactly as described in Eastland's patent. So, I wanted to talk about the effects that this machine has on communication networks. And I'm going to read a couple more statements from the same 1987 patent that Dr. Eastland got. So, the first statement I'm going to read is: a means and method is provided to cause interference with or even total disruption of communications over a very large portion of Earth. This invention could be employed to disrupt not only land-based communications, both civilian and military, but also airborne communications and sea communications. This would have significant military implications. And then the next statement is: it is possible to take advantage of one or more such means to carry out a communications network even though the rest of the world's communications are disrupted. And then the third statement is: it can be used to take advantage for positive communication and eavesdropping purposes. So, this machine is very dangerous. It has more than one purpose. Not only can it manipulate and affect the climate, but also it can affect our forms of communication, and not to mention the Earth's magnetic field. So, as you can imagine, there are a lot of concerns from anyone who knows anything about this. And there have been two major media documentaries that were created about HAARP. And one was by Canada's Public Broadcasting Network, the CBC, and the other one was by the History Channel. And they revealed the inner workings of the HAARP project. And it was very well researched by the CBC documentary, and they included this quote. It says, "It isn't just conspiracy theorists who are concerned about HAARP. In January of '99, the European Union called the project a global concern and passed a resolution calling for more information on its health and environmental risks. Despite those concerns, officials at HAARP insist the project is nothing more sinister than a radio science research facility." So, obviously, the government, the military, constantly deflects from this machine. They know what it is, they know what it can do, and they definitely don't want anyone else knowing. While I'm on the topic of HAARP, I wanted to mention that some people think that this machine can also manipulate emotions. I know that seems like a stretch, but there is some declassified CIA documents that supposedly verify this information. And there's also a book that was created about this called Mind Controllers. And it talks about an effective method of remotely influencing human emotions. And so one of the quotes from the book says, "With the use of powerful computers, segments of human emotions, which include anger, anxiety, sadness, fear, embarrassment, jealousy, resentment, shame, and terror, have been identified and isolated with the EEG signals as emotion signature clusters. Their relevant frequencies and amplitudes have been measured. Then the very frequency/amplitude cluster is synthesized and stored on another computer. Each one of these negative emotions is properly and separately tagged. They are then placed on the silent sound carrier frequencies and could silently trigger the occurrence of the same basic emotion in another human being." And so this quote is found in the section of the book on non-lethal weapons, and it includes talking about using HAARP's powerful broadcasting capabilities. And basically what it says is it is within the realm of possibility that powerful antennas like the ones in HAARP and major facilities elsewhere could triangulate on an exact location anywhere in the world and send highly intensified frequencies that match the emotion signature of a desired emotion to produce anger or any other desired emotion in a group of people, because the human mind naturally entrains to strong frequencies around it. Anyways, I hope that helped explain a little bit about what has been going on with the weather. I know not everyone lives in that region, but it can happen anywhere, and it's very strange. Just by looking at the radar, you can see that something's not right. And I wanted to help explain what this machine is and what it's actually capable of. I know for some people it might seem like a stretch that the government is capable of this, but the government actually has much newer and up to date machines now that can probably do even more. I mean, this was created back in the 80s, and of course they still use it, but I'm sure it's been updated a couple of times now. But, anyways, I just wanted to help expose people to this technology so that they know what is going on and what it is capable of. But thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. God bless you guys.